Okay. All right. Now, watch this that's coming up. This is the check, remember. This is what happened since the Federal Reserve took place. Jekyll Island, Georgia, 1911, but the effectiveness of it didn't start until December between Christmas and New Year's Day. The Federal Reserve became law. Now, you notice the shaded areas here are reversals. That is the Great Depression. That's when you truly appeared on the scene. Okay? Now, you notice that the dollar was worth $1 here in 1913, but here in about 1920, it was less than half the value. Well, along comes the recession type stuff, and it started building back up, and when the Great Depression came, look what happened. We're back up there at 80 cents. Now look what's happened since that time. The dollar that was $1 here is now worth 3.5 cents. Okay. Now, I bought that policy in 1959, right? So here was its value at that time, about 35 cents or so. Well, here at 3.5 cents, really the fact that it should be 5, it should be 10. But what I'm going to try to point out is that the death checks, everything about that state farm policy offset inflation just perfectly. Does Dave Ramsey know this?
Apparently not.
That any of the financial geniuses out there know this. It's always been there. Now, let's suppose an opportunity came along, Steve, that I needed $91,000 to take advantage of it. You know, all I got to do is call State Farm and say, send me $91,000. Now, that's real complicated, isn't it? No Mickey Mouse paperwork, no stupid questions, anything like that at all. Now, who set the repayment schedule?
You do.
Me. Yeah. Well, suppose I die in the meantime. What happens to that debt against the policy?
Insurance company pays it off with the death claim and sends the net death benefit to the beneficiary.
Do people think this thing through?
Apparently not.
Absolutely not. Not apparently. Absolutely they don't. Now, one of the reasons I see is that the insurance companies haven't done a real good job of explaining that product to the general public. To the contrary, I saw during my career as an agent how life insurance companies started boosting tax-sheltered plans and mutual funds and Equitable Life of New York invented variable life, and they invented group insurance and stuff like that. Should never have come into existence. If they had told people what a glorious product this is, and how that through multiple generations that you could produce perpetual motion, this was never brought up. And I don't understand. Now, the reason I saw this, again, was because of my Austrian background there. That back there, when I got out of the Air Force in '54, went to work in eastern North Carolina as in forestry. By the way, I never worked for the government. Smokey Bear, and I don't see eye to eye on anything. I worked privately for landowners on a contract basis. And what I saw in eastern North Carolina is the mental paralysis caused by socialism. Eastern North Carolina, Johnson County, North Carolina, is the second largest tobacco county in the world. When I said tobacco, we're talking about government programs. Everything is built around a government program. Now that thought process extended over to the general public, and they all think around government programs. And I could not understand that. Why would anybody behave that way? Now I'm glad that I offered a social gathering at home with this radiologist about what I ran into. And he says, sounds like you need this book. Went back to his library, got Henry Hazlitt's Economics in One Lesson. Read this. Well, less than 10 days, I had it back in his hands. I said, I have 2 questions. Where you guys been hiding this stuff? And why'd y'all hide it from me? He said, if you like what you read, this mailing list of this journal called the Freeman. Now, all you gotta do is ask for it. They will not send you a bill. Now, they're supported entirely by donations. If you haven't thrown some money at them in a year, they will just simply take you off the mailing list, that's all. Well, the more I read, the better it got, and that became an obsession. And what I saw, that the best Austrian economics book in the world is the Bible, but most folks in religious circles don't see this correlation. And unfortunately, some of my folks in the economic world don't see that the opposite is true either. But it's true. All the other stuff out there that goes on, the different schools of thought that we talked about earlier, like Keynesianism, and about Milton Friedman and so forth, that's top-down thinking. And again, there's my friend. Okay, I know Ron Paul. I've been knowing him for years. His solution is to get rid of the Federal Reserve, but he wants to do it from top down. We want to get a political movement to change that. And that's about like changing a snowball in hell. Yeah. Well, you can secede from this immediately. Just simply don't play that game. Buy lots of life insurance. Learn how to finance everything this way. See, we haven't, it took me 13 years to get rid of the banks. Now, most average bears take about 20 years to get rid of them. But once you get rid of them, you take that money you were paying in interest and pay off policy loans, plus what you'd be paying for premiums anyway, and you'll be astounded how fast you pay off policy loans. There are no more policy loans outstanding out there today. If you look at our hand, you swear that I'm not practicing what I'm preaching. But yes, we are. But there are no policy loans at this particular point. They've all been paid off. And it's a peaceful, stress-free way of life. And all that, I get to have fun talking to guys like you. Now, do y'all have any folks that are still hung up on interest rates?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
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 All right. Brace yourself, Curtis.
Especially the wealthy ones.
Yes. Yeah. Well, Curtis, you take this year's cash value of the state farm policy. Now you take last year's cash value. Now you divide the little number and the big number, and you get 1 point something. The point something is the growth, the interest, the rate. Okay. Y'all got that?
Mm-hmm.
You always take the little number and divide it into the big number. All right. All right, that measures the growth. I learned that in forestry school, see. All right. Now, part of that growth is because I paid $388, right? We got to subtract that out of the growth. Now take that the little number and divide it into the cash value this year, and you'll see what State Farm did on its own, right? Are you ready? 4.13 with no taxes. How's your CDs doing?
Not worth a dang.
Yeah. This policy here did 4.13 and no taxation. Now, I don't know of any company out there that's all that much different from what you're seeing. The fact is that you see people haven't looked at a policy over a long enough period of time. They always look at a policy just the first 10 years or something like that, and they draw those weird conclusions about what it's like. Well, that's our opportunity to rectify their thinking, and we rejoice for that opportunity. Okay. How are we doing on time, Jason?
15 minutes.
Okay, golly, I'm not lucky. Now, did you see how the state farm policy fit during this downward valuation of money and so forth? It kept up with things just perfectly. But yet, there's financial geniuses out there that say, don't ever buy life insurance because inflation's going to eat you alive. Well, that's the way things go. And what did I do when I cleared?
Well, it's under your finger paper.
Under the paper. Oh, thank you. This tree is exactly my age. Bob, Mary and I lived in this house 47 years, and we downsized 6 years ago. And Dave, my son-in-law, y'all know Dave Stearns?
Yes.
Okay. Now, Dave lives where we lived for 47 years. I built 60% of that house with these two hands. I designed it, both materials was put together. And they came along and ended up with the house, and they ruined my house. Curtis, they kept my fireplace and chimney. They didn't mess with it, but they did a fantastic job at it. But they put in a three-car garage with 1,000 square feet of heated and cooled airspace above that to do whatever we want to in the future. So there's a total of 4 garages. Between the 2 buildings, though, they built a pool. That tree had to go. This tree is my age. Now, y'all know how old it is?
You must
You
have
count rings. In the spring of the year, you get light-colored wood. In the summer, you get dark-colored wood. In the other 2 seasons, there's no growth. Now, the rate at which it grew here was pretty spectacular, right? Compared with that in here and so forth. During this period here, there wasn't all that much space between them, right? Yes, but you get out here to this area where the bark is. The bark has a cambium layer there. On one side it produces wood, the other side it produces bark. Now, you got to take that growth rate here and multiply it by 3.1416. You know, pi.
Pi squared.
Yeah, you know, back in Alabama, they say no pi, not square, pi or round. Cornbread or square.
Oh my God.
Pi isn't squared.
The volume here was humongous in comparison to the volume here. This is not about rates. This is about volume. And you see, all the growth of a life insurance policy is exactly that way. The growth is on top of what it was before. And you can't show me a tree that grows backward. You can't show me a life insurance policy that grows backward, except for variable life, universal life, so forth. By the way, here come all these Harvard MBA products and whatnot. Who invented universal life? Do y'all know?
Hutton.
E.F. Hutton. Y'all remember them?
Oh my
When
God.
E.F. Hutton speaks, everybody listens, right? Remember Mark? Have you heard him say anything lately?
Many, many years ago.
Yeah.
Don't exist today.
He ain't there anymore. Well, in essence, what E.F. Hutton, this brokerage firm, was saying, you guys in life insurance y'all know what you're doing. You should buy term insurance and have a side fund of an interest-bearing account. Now, back in those days, interest rates was high, and so it looked good on paper. But they fell on their face, out of business. Well, they always bought out by somebody. Executive Life in California bought them out. Well, they fell on their face and they don't exist anymore. Does the name Michael Milken mean anything to
Oh
you?
boy. Junk bond king.
Well, where was Michael Milken selling all those junk bonds, please?
Probably executive life.
Not probably, definitely. He spent prison time. Well, do you want your financial future in the hands of folks like that? But you see, that's the stuff that appeals to people out there, and that's where we have all this financial noise. Well, if you cut out the noise, the facts are just spectacular and their own. Well, this is real agricultural country y'all have around here, and the area that we drove through from northern Washington all the way here. It's a fantastic agricultural area. And we saw cornfields and stuff like that. Now, you plant corn as a farmer, what else do you get besides corn?
Weed.
Well, if you got lots of weeds to the point where you can't hardly see the corn, That's what we got in the financial world. And if you get rid of the weeds, the corn stands out like a sore thumb, doesn't it? I rest my case. All you really gotta do is cut out the noise. So teach your clients how to build their own financial noise canceling headset. Tell them, beware of the horseshoe, you get burned. This stuff's simple. Don't complicate it.